All right. Well, thanks for being here. We're not done with the day yet, but we're close to done. And it was a great day, and it's only going to get better. But I feel really good. I'm going to give you some data points. But first, instruction is the key. I said that from the beginning. We wanted to have high-quality instruction, or as high as quality instruction as we can, throughout the year. That's the leading indicator for raising student achievement. I went to a couple schools today, Forest Brook Middle School and Shadydale Elementary School, but we also had the division superintendents at lots of schools, the professional development department in lots of schools, and so I got a good feel for how we were doing on day one. I can give you, at this point, looking at about 5,000 classrooms. We had data so far in 5,000 classrooms. We had about 75% of the principals reporting medium to high quality of instruction. And those numbers are just preliminary. I mean, it's just a quick feel for how the instruction went today from various principals across the district, not just NES or NESA schools. But the point of that exercise was to ensure that principals and assistant principals and other leaders got into every single classroom, number one, across the district, and number two, that everybody knows that quality of instruction is what we're focused on. So whether it's inflated or preliminary, it's still a message to the teachers that that's the focus of the district. The other thing I would like to say around instruction is that, I've been doing this a long time, and I've had a lot of first days of schools, and this is one of the better ones that I've seen, and that's a testament to the hard work that teachers and principals did throughout the summer. You all know that we put a lot of work into this first day, especially around instruction and preparation and professional development and training. And so just having that many teachers step up and principals step up, I think that's something to be very proud of. And look, I didn't expect great instruction on the very first day. I mean, that's what we push for. We always set a high bar, but the foundations are there. And the teachers and the principals in particular show that they can get it done, and we're going to have a great year for the kids. Now, there are other logistical things, obviously, the first day that we want to talk about, so let me just give you some idea about that. We had 517 bus routes. We ran 517 buses. So every route was covered. 4 of them were late right off the bat, and so those 4 routes were late delivering their kids to schools. Another 40 routes out of 517 were late dropping off their kids to school for a number of reasons, either a locked gate that shouldn't have been there, a lot of regular cars in the bus lanes around the schools. That happens sometimes. We'll get better at that over the next couple weeks. You also know that over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we have kids enrolling and bus numbers increasing or decreasing at various stops. That just happens. For example, over the weekend or over the last few days, we've enrolled about 3,000 kids. The enrollment last year was 184,000. On August 25th, it was 182,000. Today, it's 186,400. So a lot of kids enrolling over the last week. We expect more enrollment this coming week, and many of those kids are riding the buses. So we're probably going to have to add routes. We'll probably have to consolidate a couple routes. So that's going to happen over the next 2 or 3 weeks. But we feel pretty good about the transportation situation. I was at McCarthy bus terminal. That's one of our 4 bus terminals. And this morning they had 96 routes at that terminal. And some of you came with me. You saw how hard the dispatchers, we call them service representatives, customer service representatives, CSRs, were working hard. They had good management. Buses, all the buses at that station were left the gate on time, and they only had one driver that didn't make it to school on time in the morning. We know we have the end of the day routes coming. I don't have any information on that, of course, but we'll get that, and hopefully we'll drop off kids on time to the regular bus stops. HVAC is always an issue. Air conditioning is always an issue for schools this time of year, especially this year with the over 100-degree weather, is always a concern. We had many requests to look at the air conditioning units. They were flagged. Many were flagged. They trip automatically when there's a problem. And so we had 50 technicians in the field, and they were able to keep the schools cool enough to hold classes and have instruction. We did not miss instruction today in any of our schools as a result of air conditioning, and no school had to shut down. Now, obviously, we would have if it was unsafe or unhealthy for our kids, but testament to the people in operations who had those technicians working since 4 o'clock in the morning. I think those are the major things logistically. Who has the first question?
Adding routes and consolidating routes over the next couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, how do you plan to alleviate any confusion or concern for parents?
Yeah, so we'll have to get the messaging out if we consolidate or if we add routes, and we're hoping to do that with 48 hours notice, but if we, in some cases, maybe as little as 24-hour notice to the parents about what the routes are. Thanks for asking.
And I know you were looking to replace or add teachers at certain campuses to achieve quality education. Do you know, like, what's the percentage of teachers or staff that were added to any given school, like Wheatley High School, for instance? Is it like a 100% new staff?
Oh, I see. So every school is a little bit different, and I don't have the exact numbers for any school. So you may know that we reconstituted 28 schools. Many of those reconstitution means that everybody had to reapply for their jobs. This is way back in end of June, beginning of July, and many of the teachers who were there got rehired, and then many new ones came in as well. Those are the only 28 schools that we did that back then.
Sure, I just wanted to ask about security on campuses. I know that was something y'all were looking to hire more police officers. We noticed today while going to some of these schools that there were HPD officers at some schools. Are they working with y'all? Where are we on that process?
Yeah, so there's a couple things going on there. So there's a project Safe Start. It's a collaboration with the Houston Police Department and our police department and community members and especially ministers and pastors. And so there's an additional presence at the beginning of every year with Houston Police Department and others to be in our schools. So you may have seen that, but we also have a good working relationship with the Houston Police Department. This is time of year they know that being visible is much, is a good thing for our kids to get started off on the right foot and to send the message that we are going to be safe. We are going to help our schools be much more safe. So that's probably what you saw in the field today.
And are y'all still, trying to hire more police officers with the HISD Police Department? Or do you have enough right now?
So yes and no. The yes part is we're fully staffed with our police department as it was. The no part is we have House Bill 3 that we'll talk about at the board meeting, but we will be adding police officers, not just only to meet the requirements of House Bill 3, but also to expand the number of police officers in our elementary schools. So we will be hiring more.
We got word that at one school, I think it's Memorial Elementary, the principal, parents were notified the principal had taken a job outside the district, sort of last minute. Has this happened very often for y'all? And aren't they under contract? How can they at the last minute?
So I don't know specifically about the Memorial principal, but if if a principal or anybody else gets a contract or a job at a different place and it's usually a promotion, then we're going to let that go. Also, you know, and this is me personally. You know, if a principal or somebody wants to take a job in a different place, you know, people should take the job that's the best fit for them. Hopefully, we won't have too many people leaving at the last minute. We haven't, but hopefully that won't happen too often. But it happens in our profession, just like any other profession. And you know, we probably will just wish them luck in their new job.
You said 75% of classrooms, principals were reporting high quality instruction.
Medium or high.
Medium or high. What exactly does that mean, and what was happening in the other 25? Was there not reporting, or was it bad? And what exactly does all of that mean?
Yeah, this is that's a great question. It's just the principal's general feel. We have not started our spot observations, which is very detailed on classroom instruction. Partly because I don't want people running around with the clipboard checking off things. What we're trying to do is have high quality, on the job coaching, and so we ask the principal to give just a quick low, medium, or high on the quality of instruction. Usually that'll mean, you know, how well were the kids engaged, how well was the teacher instructing, was there direct instruction, was there alignment to the curriculum. I mean, just a quick look. If you've been a principal or a leader, you know, not only have we trained you, but you probably have a background in it as well. And so it's a quick, informal, non-reportable. I mean, you know, it's not part of their evaluation or anything like that. Just to see. So it's that type of metric. Keep in mind what I said is I'm not as concerned about the percentage. I'm more interested in the fact that principals had to be in every classroom, number one, or their APs, and number two, that we are going to be talking a lot about the quality of instruction, not just with you, but with our principals, with our parents, with our students.
I'm just curious about the 25% though. So 100% of classrooms were reported, and 25% the principal
Yeah.
said vibe is off here, it's not good.
Yeah. So you know, the question will be, where's the bar, right? What bar did they set? You know, so I don't. We didn't calibrate on that bar. This was just a general feel. So it would be the same things, right? If the engagement was not as strong, if the alignment of the curriculum wasn't as strong, or the teacher wasn't doing as strong a job at direct instruction, then that would be considered low. I mean, this is the first day of school, and you know, so in the first hour or two, you know, I went to some classrooms and I was looking at instruction, and you can imagine. It's not just the first day for kids; it's the first day with teachers, and you can imagine a teacher with the superintendent going into a classroom with a group of people behind him, and that's got to be a little unnerving too. So grace to everybody, but still a focus on instruction. That's what we're looking at.
Yes, like for classroom instruction, what's the difference between last year's instruction and now with the new education system? What's kind of the difference? What are the students going to see or teachers?
I think over time, I think some kids experience that today. Again, you know, for a child, some of the things just, you know, they probably don't pay attention to. There's still a teacher in front of them teaching well, right? And that's what a child experiences. However, having said that, in the new education system schools, if you were in those schools today, many of the kids got to experience the team center, right? So they get direct instruction, then they take a quick mini quiz. We call it a demonstration of learning. And then they get separated into different groups. Kids who are proficient or accelerated move into the team center. And in any given school, there can be 2 team centers or 6 team centers. They go to a team center and they continue to work at more challenging, with a more challenging assignment. And then kids who are behind, who are still not proficient or still learning the objective, stay in the classroom. That's probably the key difference. The other difference is kids will also get what we call dyad classes, which is, dance, piano, martial arts, photography, spin bike, or something like that, on top of their elective.
When you talk about teen centers, do you mean the libraries that were converted to teen centers?
So if you go into the schools today, one of the things you'll see is, yes, in many cases the library is also a team center, but there are many other team centers. So libraries are just one place where the kids can go to do this accelerated learning.
Will kids get those evaluation quizzes daily?
Yes, what we call the demonstration of learning in the new education system. Yes, they will get a demonstration of learning daily in every core content class.
What about those student discipline centers? Were any of those utilized today? Were any kids sent there?
So the two places I was in, there were no kids in the team centers that were also zooming in online into the classroom. But if you go to the team center, the couple that we saw, there are other kids in there doing the work. And as we go along, you're going to see almost half the kids on any one time in the team centers. So even if a kid is in there for a timeout, they're going to be with other kids.
Yeah, thank you. So the principal classroom by classroom evaluation, that was for every school, it sounded like. I'm curious, just because I think a lot of principals, or at least my understanding was that there's 85 schools that would kind of be under the direct supervision or overhaul of the district. Like, what was there any, I don't know, like carrot or stick? Like, what would happen to principals who were not at NES or NESA schools that didn't do that classroom evaluation? Did anyone push back on that?
Yeah, so it's, all 273 schools have to have high quality instruction. That's been clear from the beginning. Yes, NES and NESA schools have a different model, but all schools need good instruction. So all principals, for example, will have the same evaluation system this year. And part of that evaluation system requires them to be in the classroom providing instructional feedback and doing good coaching. So that's a requirement for everybody, and that's not a negotiable point, okay, for principals.
So can I just follow up and ask, like, outside NES and NESA schools, to what degree would you say, like, the role of principal is changing this year?
Yeah, thanks for asking, because that's not totally clear. So the role is instructional leader. And so if they weren't instructional leaders before, they will become instructional leaders now, even the non-NES and NES schools. So there may not be an evaluation like the same teacher eval, like the NES and NESA, but instructional coaching happens across the board.
We're hearing that there's teachers in Kashmir High School that are being displaced from their classrooms because a lot of the staff has kind of taken over these classrooms. Can you explain a little bit about what's happening there?
Yeah, I don't know if any teacher has been displaced. There's enough room for the teachers at Kashmir High School. What you're probably talking about is there's if I'm not mistaken, a division, there's a unit support team at Kashmir High School. I believe that's the case. And so that's about 120, 130 people from Hattie Mae. You'll remember we pushed people from Hattie Mae, the district administration building, to the schools. So there's 4 division headquarters or support units, and they are in schools, and one of them is at Kashmir.
So at these high schools or at these schools, these 4 different divisions, there's over 130 staff that are going to support teachers? Is that what that is?
Yes, they support teachers not just at Kashmir. A unit comprises 2 feeder patterns. A division has 6. So those 120, 130 people support 6 feeder patterns.
I'm just wanting clarification on if you're fully staffed with Are you considering rethinking that to allow them to close their doors and lock them because of safety?
So we are fully staffed in both teachers and bus drivers. Keep in mind, it's 11,400 teachers and over, about 530 bus drivers. And so there's always a little bit of churn. Also, with bus drivers, we want to overhire. We want to have more than that. We have some what we call relief drivers already, but we want more just in case we have an outbreak of something and we have a lot of absences. So that's the bus driver question. As far as the doors go, we're going to keep the doors open when we teach. We'll use all the safety requirements that are best practice. For example, keeping the door locked, so when it's open, and then when you push it closed, it's locked automatically. This turns out to be even better safety-wise because invariably kids are in the hall, people are in the hall, and if something were to happen, kids can dart into the classroom doors, into any classroom quickly, and the door takes 5 seconds to close the door.
Can you clarify the attendance numbers? Are you saying that there are more students this year than there were last year?
As of right now, there are 186,400 and some students. I believe at the end of last year, there were 184,000 students.
I wanted to follow up on the enrollment question. So it seems like there was a growth from last year at the moment. Some of the classrooms we saw today still were half empty. Some just like a handful of kids. I'm wondering, are you concerned about that at all?
Yeah, I'm happy that there's 186,400 kids. In my experience, over this next week, we're going to grow that number as kids come back from summer or from travel or whatever, and then the number fluctuates during the year. I've been in other districts, and that's what happens. But it's a good sign that if the enrollment is already up pretty considerably, that's a good thing for revenue, but it's also a good thing for our schools. In any one school, you're going to see overages, and then in some schools, you're going to have under enrollment. So we'll get a handle on that over the next couple weeks. You want to follow up?
I
So.
have one more follow-up. So we also saw just like how regimented the LSAE model was from a timeliness perspective,
Mhm.
and these encouragements to implement MRS, every 4 minutes. And I'm just wondering if you think that that's sustainable as lessons progress and as the year moves on. This down to the second model.
Yeah, down to the second maybe is a little bit too precise. But yes, having a model that's tied to a pretty rigorous schedule, for example, 45 minutes of direct instruction thereabouts, and teachers can go up to 50 minutes of direct instruction, and then a demonstration of learning being 10 minutes exactly. You'll find that over time, if you don't have those sorts of parameters, then it just extends and people use more time than they really need. So demonstration learning, start to finish, 10 minutes. And I think the teachers are just going to get better at that. It's going to become natural to the kids. Demonstration learning, we do it 10 minutes. They move to the team center, easy.
To follow up on that a little bit, there are some kids, a lot of kids who are mainstream but are given special accommodation. How do those kids deal with the time things? They're given more time.
So it depends. If on the demonstration of learning, it's not an actual assessment. It's a demonstration of learning. Kids can take more time if on their special education IEP, individualized education plan, they are given more time. Then those kids can take more time on the demonstration of learning. But they're going to get more time in the team center anyway, or in class once their DOL is graded.
So just to be clear, the teachers teach for 10 minutes, the kids take a quiz.
45
For them
minutes.
and then they break out into groups? Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, 45 minutes.
45.
Yeah, direct instruction is 45 minutes, and then a 10-minute demonstration of learning. And then they break into groups.
It seems like high-quality instruction really relies on good feedback. What can a teacher do if they don't feel they're getting good feedback?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question, because that's the key. So we're training principals on providing good feedback, and we're training principals on the job coaching. So that's the best way to provide feedback. Writing out a spot observation form is important, but it's really not the best way to deliver feedback to teachers who want to grow. The best thing is to do, validation, positive validation of things that are working well, and then also helpful hints on the moment. This is how you should do a multiple response strategy. This, LSAE work can be improved this way, something like that. And you do that in the moment, on the job, and that's the best way. So, yes, instructional feedback is key. Principals are being trained to do that. If I, teacher, feel like I'm not getting the instructional feedback that I need, the first thing to do is talk to my appraiser, my AP, my principal, and as a last resort, if that doesn't work, to really contact my executive director. We want to follow the chain of decision making, because that's how problems are solved.
Yeah, I've heard from a couple teachers at an NES school that they were asked to remove classroom libraries. I was just wondering if that's a district policy or a principal decision.
Yeah, that's not a district policy. Teachers can have books in their classrooms. In fact, most of our Amplify products have so many books that they've got more books. It may be, and I don't know, maybe we know that principals want to make sure that there aren't a lot of other things in the classroom that are cluttering the classroom where it's too tight or too crowded or something like that. So I don't know if that's the case, but there's no district policy for that.
I know that you had mentioned that you want teachers to keep their classrooms open. What happens to those teachers that are teaching in those temporary buildings, those T buildings outdoors? Do they keep their classroom doors open as well?
No, they do not. And so we put this out to the principals, and they've put it out to their families. If a classroom door opens to the outside, of course, we're not going to have those classroom doors open. Also, there are many other specific examples where we just use our common sense about doors. If you have a special needs student who is prone to leaving the classroom, then that door can be closed. If you have a classroom right next to the choir room or the PE gym, and the noise is too great there, then we can close the door. So we'll use our sense. But generally speaking, we want the classroom doors open when we have instruction.
What's the goal with that?
Yeah, the goal is for a couple things. The main thing is to be an open school where you can have people popping in and out, administrators or others, to observe the quality of instruction, and for professionals to say, look, I'm teaching well. I'm not hiding behind a classroom door with a construction paper over the slit of it. It's also better for internal discipline, in the classroom safety, if the doors are open. It's very visible. People can walk by. Administrators can hear issues if there are issues, things like that. So those are the reasons.
A couple logistical questions. So about the buses, what defines an on-time or late arrival, and about the AC? I know you said no school had to shut down due to heat. What's that threshold, and how many schools needed service requests?
Thanks for asking. So the first question was about the on-time arrival. So there are two things. Every bus route has a drop-off time at school and then drop-off time at the end of the day. So let's talk about the beginning of the day, though. Drop-off time, and it could be 7:45. So we look at a couple numbers. Did they meet their 7:45 time? If they didn't, that's late. But school starts at 8. So it's, it's not great, but it's okay that you're a few minutes late, kids are in classroom, they're good, right? So we look at both, are you late to drop off or are you late to school, the start of school? So that's what defines that time.
1 minute would be, it's not like there's like 5 minutes.
1 minute late. Yeah. But it's not late to school, so that's, we don't want to be late, but at least that, that's okay. And the second part of your second question was,
Second part was how many schools needed service requests?
Oh, yeah.
And what's the threshold for where like unsafe is for temperature?
we had 91 mechanical issues of some sort starting at 4 o'clock. And so 50 technicians were out handling all of these things. Sometimes it's, if there's a power surge or power goes out, it's just for a little bit, but then the air conditioning unit shuts down. Somebody has to go out and, turn that power back on. And so sometimes it's as simple as that. Other times it's a bigger problem. So what's the threshold? Here's what we do. As soon as a call is made, or the maintenance people are aware of a problem, heat-wise, we start a 3-hour clock. And if we can't resolve it in 3 hours, then we determine at that point whether it's too dangerous or too unhealthy for kids. The people have different versions of what too hot is. 82 degrees is too hot. That's really warm, I get that, but is it too hot to be in a classroom learning? So that's the process by which we will say we're going to shut a school down.
Wait, sorry, was that just an example, like 82 degrees, or is that actually your like?
That's the threshold that I talked to the maintenance people about.
You said 40 buses were late. Was that leave
44.
late to school or late to class? Or like late, the 7:45 or the 8?
8 or 8:30, depending on elementary or middle. 44 total late to school.
Late for the class.
Yeah, late for class.
Oh, sure. Sorry, can you talk a little bit about the importance of, y'all started instruction today, all of these schools. Usually it seems like a lot of schools would go through procedures and, like rules for the classroom. Why start instruction on the very first day?
We need 185 student-teacher contact days of good quality instruction to close the achievement gap. We have, and to close the skills gap. We have 172 in this calendar. And that's not enough. So every day counts. That's number one. Number two, except for kinder and first, which did take more time and pre-K, to get to know the teacher, get to know each other, and how to go to the bathroom, walk to the bathroom and things like that. Pre-K, kinder, and first, and some second graders. Third graders through 12th graders, they already know the rules. And so we don't need to spend 20 minutes in each class going over the rules. And we can do some procedures as we're doing them. I tell the teachers and principals it's like being a football coach. You run wind sprints on the first day. You don't jog a wind sprint. And you don't have to tell the players how to run a wind sprint. They will, if they have never run a wind sprint before, they will catch on as you're doing it. You don't have to, have them practice that for 20 minutes every time. So in the same way, so we were at, was it Shadydale, where the principal said they didn't go over the rules. They just went, as the kids came in, they said single file level 0. In educationese, that means, single file level 0 means 0 voice level. So no voices. Then it goes from 0 to 5. But single file level 0, they might have had to tell the kid, hey, single file means right behind the other kid. Don't bunch up. And they started doing it. That's, they didn't need to hear about it, 20 minutes first.
I just have a clarification. You said 91 mechanical issues. Is that 91 different buildings? And a number of parents at Henderson Elementary said that they were upset that the kids were not sent home. Do you know if it came close to that 82 degrees at Henderson?
I don't know about Henderson specifically, but you know, as I was told, all HVAC units were still cooling the building. Look, there are some buildings that have always been warm in parts because we have some old buildings and some old air conditioning units, HVAC or rooftop units or HVAC. So, you know, those classrooms will always be warm. And people have different thresholds, right? I think 78 is warm, right? And another person would think that 74 is too warm. So I don't know exactly is the answer, but I know that it's variable, but it's not dangerous for our kids or unhealthy for the kids.
91 different buildings?
Yeah, so it's I don't know if it's 91 different buildings. Probably 91 different buildings had some sort of alarm or alert that the power had tripped or it was getting close to warm or one part of the cooler had stopped, things like that. But they were all, you know, dealt with quickly by our operations team, 50 technicians out in the field.
What grade would you give to that?
Overall for the district? Oh, that's a great question. I'm gonna give it an A minus. I think people got in there. We had instruction everywhere. We weren't perfect on the buses, but pretty good overall. Air conditioning units. All the kids got instruction today. They got to where they needed to be. That's pretty good, and it's just going to get better. So every day is an improvement day. Look, today's not the finish line. Today's the starting line. For me, it was a baseline data. That's what I've done this many years in a row. I'm looking at baseline data. Where's our starting point? I feel very optimistic about that because our starting point looks pretty solid. But now it's a point of continuing to improve every day. So now I'm going to be looking at September 30, the end of the month, 4 weeks from now. I'm going to be going to schools all the time, but I'm going to go back to some of the same ones. At the end of September, I'm going to gauge how much progress there is. And we're going to do it again in December, gauge how much progress there is, and then, of course, a couple times in the next semester.
Just a couple quick questions about the evaluation system for teachers. One of the bigger concerns I've heard that's more widespread is the forced distribution.
Target distribution.
The 2 out of every 5 are less than proficient. Can you speak to just why the distribution that you have in mind is that way, that kind of forces a certain number of teachers to be less than proficient?
Yeah, so there's a couple things to look at closely because the progressing 2 is 25%. So that means progressing 2 and above is 85%. So progressing 2 is not proficient, but still paid very well. The same with proficient and above. We have to have a target distribution, otherwise there will be inflation and inaccurate, non-rigorous evaluations. That is the bane of any evaluation system in any company in the world, or at least the Western Hemisphere. So that's why we have a target distribution.
And then just the second part is, in terms of the expansion of it to all of the schools, I was just hoping you could speak to why you're implementing reforms that cover the entire district when you were brought in for a specific handful of schools, one that triggered the law, but this idea that your mandate is to just make sure there are no schools that fail to meet standards, why target the entire district?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have to look at the district as a whole, because the mandate is no DNF schools for multiple years. We are going to have, most likely, if you look at the what-if data and the recent STAR data, accountability hasn't come out yet, so this is a ballpark figure. We're probably going to have over 50 or 55 DNF campuses. That's a good portion. That's a sizable amount. And then you always have schools that kind of come in and out, right? So this is a mandate not just for 1 or 2 or 3 schools. This is something we need to do for all the for all the schools that are struggling. The other thing is this: I know what the TEA mandate is, but really it's a system-wide approach. I've said that before. It's a system, and so all schools need to worry about AI, workforce, year 2035 competencies. Even our strong schools need to think a little bit more about AI in the workplace, AI in the workforce. So we're going to move all of our schools, and we're going to do it with a new system.
So I feel like you just said, teachers kind of hit the ground running today, started teaching. But what about teachers building that relationship with their students, getting to know them? What did they like, strong, just different things about them? Do you think that they missed that opportunity by not interacting with them?
No, I think teachers do relationship building all the time. If you were at Forest Brook talking to the principal there at the middle school, she's all about the relationship. And they will be doing things all along to build that relationship. I go back to, I know some people don't like sports analogies, but it's like a coach with a team. I coached my son's YMCA basketball team 3 years in a row, when he was 5, when he was 6, and when he was 7. And first day, we're dribbling the ball, we're sprinting, we're hustling. First day. And the kids loved it, and the parents loved it. So discipline and order and high-quality instruction is not the enemy of enthusiasm or fun. And I think we have to shift our mindset a little bit and see that relationships can be built and kids can have fun even if there's high-quality instruction. Somewhere along the line, we got to the point where we thought, if kids have a film or they have a party, that's fun, but, math is not fun.
Margaret?
This morning, one of the principals revealed that she had one too many in category A and one
Yeah.
or more too few in category B. And her plea to you was, well, we're
Leave it
a very big school. What's going to happen after we're done? You told her switch it around? Or?
Well, so we'll do that on a case-by-case basis. What you're talking about for the rest of you is we have teacher apprentices for our NES schools and NESA schools. And the ratio for teacher apprentices is 1 to 100 kids. For learning coaches, it's 1 to 75 kids. So she had 1 or 2 fewer learning coaches and 1 more teacher apprentice than she should have. So the question is what to do about that, and should we leave it alone? The answer is we'll probably leave it alone, but we are doing a staff audit over the next month of every school to make sure that we got the staffing right.
Any other questions? Leah?
You mentioned that you encourage parents, especially at NES schools and maybe all schools, to come in and visit and see what's going on. What do you want them to see? What should they look for?
I think if they, I want them to see kind of what we saw today, right? What is actually happening. They don't need the level of detail like LSAE or DOL. I want them to see whether the kids are learning. I want them to see whether it's a safe and orderly environment. I want them to see what the heck is a team center. I want them to see the webcam. So I just want them to generally see what's going on in the school. By the way, not just NES and NESA. I think the more a parent can see what's going on in the school, the better it is for that parent and their child or student.
This summer I feel like we've heard a lot from people who have been skeptical, saying too many changes too fast, and are kind of feel like there's a lot of uncertainty at HISD. What do you want to say to them after today, after the first day of school?
Yeah, again, and I've said this before too. Look, it's understandable. Even one change can be unnerving, and we have had a lot of changes, and it does look different, but it doesn't look that much different for a kid, right? A kid goes to school, he wants to see his or her friends, they have an effective teacher in front of them, they're not as discerning. They may not know what an effective teacher is, but it doesn't matter. They have a teacher in front of them teaching them. They go to electives, they go to dyad, they're going to have fun in that. So yes, while there's changes, mostly for the adults, for the community and for the kid, it's not that different.
Sam, you're gonna go last.
Yeah. Kind of on that point, you said it's not going to look too different for the kid from the kid's perspective. The lessons that we saw today, as you know, we talked about, seem to be pretty like regimented as far as the 45 minutes DOL. Is that going to be every single day, or is there going to be space for like projects or field trips or other things to kind of shake up the the structure of the day-to-day?
Yeah, so even today, we didn't get to see it, but electives and dyads break up the day as far as the DOL and the LSAE. And we will certainly do field trips, and there will be other things that teachers will want to do as we go along that'll be different, and that's okay. So on the whole, yeah, the LSAE is the model, and you already know we're going to be doing travel and things like that for our middle schoolers and ninth graders, and field trips for the younger grades. So yes, those things will happen, but on an average day, it's the LSAE model. Thanks, guys.